This is ooh.
All right, so it looks like we are live. Just let me go check to make sure we are live. And yes, I'm literally going onto a different account, logging onto YouTube and looking to
Oh
see
my gosh.
if we're fucking live, because that's how primitive my shit is. All right, we are live
Ooh.
now.
We got
So,
we got the email. We got the email.
all right, I can you text that to me and then.
Just sent. Bam. Oh, this is about to be
All right.
crazy.
So, um, uh, JT, right? That what? First of all, what do you want me to call you?
I whatever. I said
Whatever.
you were asking me if I wanted a name or whatever earlier. I was like Alchem. I don't know.
Alchem. All right, Alchem. So I know that you had a hot take on this issue. So why don't you talk about that while I add this person that you wanted?
Well, I just think like America right now is like really desensitized to the real issues, and everybody on like the radical left point of view, like saying Republicans are single issue voters, and like we're all just like white supremacists and racists and homophobes, and we all just want like one agenda. Like everybody's always saying stuff like that, and then they want to attack white people and call them like the white devil and everything, and say they're doing all these crazy things, and it's just like nobody's paying attention to like where we've been going this past like pretty much decade. You know, like
Well, I
Obama
think some of
himself.
us have been paying attention.
Yeah, we have like the ones out there who are really thinking about things and like always just analyzing everything around them. Like those are the people we need like on the political front. You know,
Yeah.
people who have unique perspectives and unique stories to tell, who who have been wronged, who have been like put in some box where society like deems them to be of some certain character type, and it's just like it's so like backwards because the people on the radical left are the ones doing that, and then they want to completely shy away from acknowledging all of the crazy stuff happening right like literally today, like as we speak. There's the the worst thing happening that like we can imagine, as opposed to what everybody on that side was initially preaching way back when abortion was still like, you know, it's going to be rare and it's going to be safe and it's going to be about the mom and it's going to be this and that. And it's just like the situation in New York is horrible. Like the normal conditions of abortion clinics, um, you know, do not meet standards of like hospitals or typical medical facilities. Like there's rats, there's mice, there's unsanitary equipment use.
All
They
right.
they don't watch the instruments like when it has to come to going from patient to patient. Um,
And like, okay,
it's
I know
not
that,
fair
and
or
you
safe
know
there.
that.
Huh?
I know that, and you know that. But something that's big that I want to make sure we keep doing is do you know of any like sources people can go to like look this up for themselves, because
You
it,
can
it is
okay.
real and
Like
it's really
I
horrifying.
just watched another video on this from Steven Crowder. I didn't realize that he had put out a video until like maybe yesterday on it, um, where he was talking to a former like um person who was affiliated with Planned Parenthood, and she herself like gave accounts of this stuff happening, like her seeing it, like that the industry that tried to blackball her, you know, out of the medical community, like was doing all this. Like it was crazy. All this stuff was crazy that was happening, and no one really was putting their eye on it, just because the way that they go about it is really, you know, I can't remember who it was, but they said that the left is very good at linguistics, and that's completely true. They're really good at having things mean what they want it to mean, while
Well,
also
yeah,
meaning
they're all.
something else that's like way more comforting to the masses, you know, because we're like
Because if you
everybody
think
knows
about
we're
it, all of
complacent,
the
we're complacent to a degree, and they say things that like they make us feel nice, and they make us feel like, oh, we're voting for the right reasons, and it's just like that's not where life ends. You don't just vote. You know, everybody already knows that like it's not a democracy. You know, it's a democratic republic. Like certain things work certain ways, and we have to do things in the private sector and not just rest our, you know, fates on the government shoulders, because like things like this start to happen. We have the highest increase in abortion complications in modern medicine that we know of, as far as I can tell. Like the complications coming from all of these unsanitary equipment usages, not to mention the gross negligence on the medical community's part, because now with this legislation they're not requiring skilled physicians, like trained physicians, to do this. Like they're having nurses do it and force mothers to watch the ultrasound as they use the ultrasound to guide themselves around her uterus, and the mother watches her baby get dismembered in front of her, like on the screen, while the nurse and all the people involved also watch. And it's like, that's not how it's supposed to go, and that's how it's happening, case after case after case. And the other thing, a lot of the statistics on this stuff are completely inaccurate. So like how many treatments are given per patient, you know, a lot of the statistics that they have to to string together this narrative of like, oh, you know, uh, only 3% of our services are related to abortion, and it's like that's not the case. You know, they split the elements up of the things that they do in like one fell swoop, and then disperse it over a graph or whatever that makes it look like there's, you know, 13 different visits. And they do that to skew the public eye on everything that's happening. And it's not just about like what's happening there, it's also having to do with how we're allowing public officials and stuff to be you know, seen by the public. You know, like everybody wants to blame fake news and everything, but nobody really like goes into how that's accurate. And it's like, okay, if you wanted to go into fake news and you wanted to be able to claim that, you might want to also mention, you know, how Obama himself voted against an act that would prevent a situation that also happened due to an abortion clinic not having the life of infants at the heart of what they're doing. You know, like the life of the mother and the life of the infant is what like Planned Parenthood was supposedly about. You know, like I want to plan my parenthood. Like I want to be able to get birth control. I want to be able to get birth control for my partner, medicine for my partner, or whatever. Have a clinic where I can go to get what is going to be good for me, them, and eventually the life that I choose to bring to this world. And it's not about preserving the life and like sanctity of that anymore. Even when at first like we all knew that it wasn't about that from the beginning, we could still at least give some merit to, you know, well, their statistics do show that it's only 3% of what they do, and it's like, no, it's more like 50.
Well, yeah, and there's a cartoonist. He runs a channel on YouTube called Freedom Tunes,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually did like an animation about that because it's like Sally comes in for an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they give her a they give her like a pregnancy test just to make sure she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Now only half of what she's here for is the abortion, and then they give her like a series of other treatments, and like they give her a Plan B pill and a
Yeah, you
condom,
know,
which counts as two more services,
you get the normal treatment, you get
which divides, you know,
precursory.
it divides what she's there for by
Yeah,
like
exactly.
another four, like divides it by 4.
Yeah,
So
at least.
the reason those places have such low numbers of people that are stopping by for abortions is really because, you know, Sally came in for an abortion, but she gets so many different services that technically only about 1% of what she ends up going there for is
Yeah,
the
but
abortion.
the thing is though, they try to say it like that with like legal jargon, but at the same time, if you really look at it, everything that they do, like in most specific cases of, you know, talking to a Sally per se, will be directly related to abortion. So you're gonna need to have your vital signs taken while you're
And
getting
by
an
the way,
abortion.
I'm really sorry for anyone who's named Sally who might be listening
This
to
is like,
this one day.
oh god, oh god, they found me out.
We calling you out, bro.
I'm so, you know, You did it. You know, it's. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's over. That part of the conversation's done. Goodbye. um, going past that though. We're never gonna know an actual number. Like I say, most likely 50, but honestly, if I was going with like my real gut feeling, I would say about 70 to 80% is abortion. Because like even one of the most high up people from Planned Parenthood corrected public headlines saying, our core mission, is to provide access to abortions, and they talked to
Yeah.
her, and they were talking about, if it's about, being clean, whatever, sterile, providing for the mother's health and making sure like every step is optimized for her, and like geared toward making her uh someone who's in a more stable situation, a more like healthy situation. And it's like everything that they say is kind of a sidestep, and it, like, when you're talking to them, they're just like, they're so calm about it.
Yeah.
They're just like, third trimester, yeah, up to 40 weeks. It's like, yeah, so we're down with killing what we formerly called a fetus that is obviously no longer just a clump of cells. Like,
Well, I mean, okay.
the reason I was talking about Obama earlier is because he signed off legislation that would he didn't sign off on legislation that would protect live birth babies, like in situations where abortion would have been like the primary option. And there was a woman, I'm not gonna like go into any names, but like you can look this up. There was a woman who was restrained in an abortion clinic and forced to let her baby die. She wanted to leave. She tried to call 911 and they wouldn't let her leave. They closed the door. They kept the door closed
Oh
for
my
her.
God, I
And
read that
they
story.
they trapped her in there, and they made her watch her baby die in
Yeah.
front of her.
See the
She performed CPR for half an hour. She performed infant CPR on her own baby for half an hour, and made her allow not allow that to happen. They made her a party complicit in the death of her own child, and like that's gonna stick with her for the rest of her life. That's how she's gonna see it. And
yeah.
they forced her into a situation like that. They strong armed her and made her watch corruption happen in its most raw form. Like, and it directly impacted her. Like that. I'm not saying
And
how it
like,
impacted her, but it directly, like, that happened to her. Like somebody had that happen to them because we don't understand what we're doing with abortion yet.
you
It's
see,
like
but
I'm
but
for
the
pro-choice in
problem
some
here, I think,
situations, but like,
is,
huh?
but I think the big problem here, like, obviously, there's people that don't like abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have people like me, and like, I get it. I'm a libertarian. I don't like the government telling people what to do.
Yeah.
And like, personally, right now, I'm like willing to concede that like, if the kid doesn't have a heartbeat, technically we have no science saying it's alive, but I think it's alive. But I'm willing to concede temporarily until science can prove otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And what else I don't like is that like organizations like Planned Parenthood are self-sustaining businesses, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
self-sustaining business, so why are our tax dollars going into funding it? That's my big problem.
exactly.
But
Exactly.
also what I think the big problem here is, like in New York, what we've had is like in New York, they released the law saying, literally saying that if it's pertinent to a woman's health, they can kill the baby like right out of the womb.
Yeah.
What they don't talk about with the law though is, because I've read it, the law literally says if it's it literally adds mental health to that checklist,
Yeah. It's like
which means that
we could
if
agree
someone's
on
like
mental health
being,
before. We could agree on that. Like
and there's
anybody
no
who's in their right
consensus
mind
on
is
what
just like, okay,
mental health
do a
is.
C-section.
Now hold on, I'm gonna see if I can add comments because I just got a message saying that there isn't any comments. So yeah, but no, I want to hear where you want to go with that conversation that I just,
What?
I want to hear your take on like what I just said.
On what?
Literally what I just said.
I mean, if you are dealing with an issue with your comment section, I guess you should fix that. I said, huh? Like, I'm. Did you say something while I was talking? Because I thought I heard you talking.
I no, I'm asking for like your take on the whole thing I just said. Like what you think about
About.
um the whole spiel I just went on, dude.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I thought I heard you for a second when I was talking, and I don't know if I was talking while you were talking because I don't know what you're talking about.
Cuz I no, okay.
You just repeat yourself, like, dude.
Cuz in New York they released the whole statement like they can doctors can abort the baby after it's out of the womb if it's, pertinent to the woman's health, and they added mental health to that list, but there's no clear definition on what mental health means.
Yeah.
Like they don't define it at all. And I
Yeah.
think
Oh,
that's
I
something
thought.
that's throwing a whole lot of people out for a loop.
Yeah, that's literally what I was saying. Because like, while I was talking about how oh, give me a second. How it that is not conducive to like improving someone's mental health. Like, how is that gonna affect the woman at all if the baby's already out of the womb? And like, where do you see the need to like abort it after the fact? Like, what happened to foster care? What happened to striving toward um, long term solutions? And people, the reason why I got into this conversation recently, um, and like actually like started forming some opinions on it is because like I've seen it coming. Like you already said, those of us that have been aware have been aware, and we knew what was coming. And now that it's here, it's like, well, I guess I have to say something because like I can't believe that we're actually at this point. Like we're killing babies outside of the womb, and then not to like get all conspiratorial or whatever, but like we all were
All
there
you do is get
when Planned Parenthood.
conspiratorial.
Huh?
All you do is get conspiratorial. Go on.
Shut up, dude. You know what I'm talking about. Like we were all there when Planned Parenthood got into that scandal. Where the freaking body parts. You know, it's like, and now we have people coming out and saying like there's ingredients in soda and stuff that is derived from like fetal body part, like fetal tissue, like babies. Like we're drinking that. They're feeding our own people to us, and it's like, when are we gonna get a clue? Like they want to throw all this like anti-vaxxer stuff at us, like, oh, you shouldn't vaccinate your kids because da 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 da, and it's just like, dude, we already know like the crazy stuff that happens behind vaccines. Like we understand that like certain things people just aren't going to react well to. But I'm not about to have a public health crisis just because uh there's a risk, like vaccinate your kid if you're going to send them to public school. Now we have measles going on and we're getting all of our attention thrown all over the place. There's this polar vortex happening. People are dying. I think animals are dying for sure. And it's just like there's all this stuff happening and they just want to, sweep us under the rug, be like, "Oh, you guys aren't focusing on what really matters. You should like no,
Yeah,
like we have to
and that's
focus on all
definitely a
of it.
tactic that a
That's the
lot of
whole
groups,
issue." Huh?
and that's definitely a tactic that a lot of groups will use. Because like, if a lot of things are happening,
They want to say like, "Oh,
then
you're
they won't
single-minded and
notice
only
the
focus on one
smaller
thing."
things happening.
Yeah, and it's just like there some of us out here are actually thinking about this and like have our opinions to say, and it's just like you don't have to say your piece, you don't have to give your opinion on this stuff. You don't have to be invested in politics, and you don't have to be a conscious, productive member of society. But what I'm not going to do is just sit there while people inch toward the conclusion that it's fine to take human lives by the government's hand. Because if we do that, like we're no better than Nazi Germany. Like if we're gonna be blunt, we're killing kids off the basis of population control which
Yeah.
like people high up in Planned Parenthood again have exposed themselves willingly, like as having certain motives, being what
Well,
they are. You know, like over
the
70% of the Planned Parenthood locations are in minority majority communities, inner city communities. They said outright that they were aiming toward population control in Black communities. Like,
well, the founder of Planned Parenthood, literally her mission statement, um, her first mission statement was that she wanted to eliminate the Black and Jewish races because they were a threat to America.
did I not
That
just
was
say that?
literally her statement.
Yeah,
And the government, of course, told her, no, you're insane, because this was right after World War II, I believe. But
exactly.
then she came back later and she changed her tune to literally what their message statement is now, which is, easy abortion to, you
Yeah,
know,
it's like it's
those who
it's
can't
reverse
afford it.
psychology. It's reverse psychology on a massive scale to the point where it's come full circle, and we've had enough infestation of hard leftist views into the government that it's going through. It's going through. That's why in California and why in New York, like super Democrat states don't function as well as they could if we had a bipartisan point of view on things. Because now in California we have like the highest like property taxes and housing costs that you can imagine. Same thing for New York. You have to pay like $800 a month for like friggin' however, like not enough square feet. I'm not gonna give a specific like number, but it's never really enough unless you're like making it big, and that doesn't happen that often in New York. If you want to be real,
Yeah.
it's like we really don't have our priorities straight. Like if we want to make these states like that, then they can go on ahead. But I'm not gonna be the one sitting by and just watching them do it. Like I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, because like so many people are dealing with stuff directly stemming from the government being used as a club. Like Obama tried to take people's guns. Like I don't care if you're coming from like a nice place or whatever. We're not about to have a Bill C-16 situation in the United States just because somebody got their feelings hurt. Like just because you feel some kind of way doesn't mean you can take that, flip it, and then go, I think I want to kill the issue. Like that's not how we do things. This is America. Like I don't know
Well,
what happened to C-sections. I'm a C-section baby. What happened to that? Is that not a thing anymore? Like what's going
I
what?
honestly don't know, because
It's just so crazy. Like people like I I don't understand. Like I genuinely don't understand like how this like leap of logic happened. And I feel like honestly, because like I'm really metaphysical, and it's like I feel because like I've integrated with my shadow. Like I've integrated my shadow. Like Jordan, if you're out there, what's good, G? You helped me out a lot. But like not to get weird, but like I've really integrated my shadow and like come to understand how I could get into a situation mentally where like Jordan said, like you have to understand that like you can be a Nazi. Like if you were given the right parameters, anybody could be a Nazi, proverbially, at least. Like
yeah,
you
because
like in any situation, like if the right parameters are set in front of you and you don't have the moral fortification within yourself to be able to stand tall in your own bubble of morality and inspire those around you, then you are no better than a hive mind uh Nazi Germany person. Like anybody who was there who was complicit in that, like you could have been any one of those people, and up to and including the people running the incarceration camps. I stand by that, and it's like I've forced myself to battle my own inner demons and make friends with them, and like from a religious point of view or whatever, like I wouldn't be surprised if I went to hell, and it's just like I just have explored life from my own like sake of perspective, and these people don't understand what's happening right in front of them. Like they don't understand how it's tied into ideologically driven behavior, I should say. They don't understand how short-sighted and closed-minded they're being when it comes to political discourse. it's like all of it is happening at the same time, and then it's bleeding back out into this the what's it called? Like it's basically like the stratosphere of energy that's all around us. Like we're network beings. Like we latch on to stuff around us. Like even if you don't want to like label it like psychics or whatever, like you can like if somebody walks into a room and you don't like them, like usually they're putting off some kind of vibe. And it's like I feel like we really need to take a step back and understand things in the grand scheme instead of just like coming at each other and being all they're wrong and I'm right. Like from whatever point of view, it's just like it all needs to be a collaborative effort, and it's like you can't have all of these people just suddenly out of the conversation the way that it is right now, because there's a lot happening that's getting swept under the rug, and like no one's talking about it. Like nobody even knows like probably any of the stuff that I just said, and it's like the majority of people aren't for that kind of situation, and if they really understood what was happening, they would be up in arms about it because it's not okay.
Yeah. And like honestly, the thing that I think people understand the least, particularly about like my series of arguments, is like you have the these organizations like Planned Parenthood, and there are these organizations that are being paid for by the government,
Yeah.
right? Because like a lot of people think the entirety of the pro-life argument is that we don't want it, and to a degree, it is true that we don't like the idea of there being abortion, but it's also that like because I know you're not going to be, but like I'm paying taxes this year, and like the thought that my tax money is going to support fully functional businesses like that,
Exactly.
it's just
That's
kind of
that's what I'm
horrifying.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like
And like,
as a citizen, like you have to be aware of what you're everything that's going on around you, whether it be the energy that you're putting off or sapping, or where your money's going and where it's coming from. And it's like if you know that your money is going to and then funneling directly toward murdering babies, something that like in general you don't agree with, you should probably feel some kind of way about it. Like, that's just my opinion.
all
And I
right,
feel like that's kind of where you were going with that.
yeah.
It's just like,
Are there any more statements you want to say about this topic?
um, I don't like baby murder.
I mean,
That's pretty much
a lot of people don't, but I feel like it's time to move on to another topic, and I want to stick with our theme of like what's going on with New York.
mhm.
So
Ooh,
low
educate me.
key, I just wanted to bring up to you, how do you feel about the senator from the Bronx?
Oh Christ, she's another breed. To be completely honest, to be blunt, like she's interesting to say the least. I feel like outside of a political context, um, she would have some interesting. We would have some interesting interactions, but she's interesting in a not so good way when it comes to going right to politics, which is, her main turf. And it's like having a child in the Senate. Right? Senate. Hello.
Yeah, in the Senate.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Sometimes I mix up
Or
names.
no, I think she's in the House of Representatives. Let me
I
look
don't
that
know. She
one
has
up.
a seat. She has a seat
She
somewhere.
has
She's
a
living the
seat
big
in
life.
she has a
She's
seat
living
in
her best life.
Congress.
She's living her best life, and that's good and fine. But she's also like treating people like children. Like she's acting like we don't understand what the hell a marginal tax rate is. Like
She
Econ
is a
101.
representative in the House of Representatives.
Oh well, she needs to not represent the economy because she don't know what she's talking about. At the very
Which
least, that's what I
actually
think. Because she's
surprises
she's,
me because
she's
I
talking
thought
back to us, like the American public, as if we don't understand what a marginal tax rate is. Like I've been known that concept since I was like 8. Okay, like it's not that
and
hard.
what's crazy is like people talk about marginal tax rates as if that's like how things have always been done. No, that's not how it's always been done. Like my family always tells me this story my great grandfather, he was a landscape architect, and there was a certain point where he would just stop working every year, and literally the reason he would stop working is because he was earning so much by doing landscape architecture that
He was gonna
if
get
he
taxed for
kept
it.
working, they would be taxing him enough money that he would make more money by just not working.
That's so.
And like, so like when I say stuff like the reason a lot of like one of the reasons a lot of poor people don't want to make the next step up
Yeah.
is because of stuff like that. Because even though we have a marginal tax rate now, people still sometimes end up in situations where they get a job that makes more money, but it's right on the edge of that bracket, and so they end up getting taxed enough that they're making less.
It's not really worth it. Like they're putting more effort into
Yeah,
being penalized worse, and it's like
and like
you
a
got
marginal tax, like a marginalized tax bracket should stop that. But I've still heard people who, talk about that happening to them to this day
yeah,
because it's not a very well organized system.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's designed by politicians. Nothing politicians make ever seems to work. But
Yeah,
like,
because like we don't need a federal government guiding our lives. We just need we literally. That's a lot of the reason why. Once you get from federal to state, there's still a blurry line between like what state should be responsible still for, because after that, like state should really just be kind of picking up the slack of the federal government, in my opinion, and everything else should be left to the private sector. That's my opinion. That's my opinion, and I think that the
well,
fact
yeah, but that's
that
because you're a dirty capitalist.
well, I mean, I am disgusting, so that makes sense. But honestly, like, Planned Parenthood is a prime example of that. The fact that they are a private business and they are simultaneously being subsidized by the government shows the reason why people get irritated at capitalism. It's because it seems disgusting when you look at it like that. From like our perspective, we're literally looking at our tax dollars being funneled directly into state sanctioned infanticide, and we don't see that as okay. So obviously somebody who um, sees it from that other point of view, they're gonna think the exact same thing. But it's just because that's how the the view on it has been swung. And it's like if you look at any normal hardworking person who's maybe even is supporting a family, like a dad supporting two kids and a wife, like a stay-at-home mom or something, like the typical nuclear family, like they're not going to be happy about that. Um, it,
Yeah,
they're not. They're just not. That a typical American isn't just gonna roll over and take that. Like I'm sorry to pop your bubble on what you think is going on, but that's not what's happening. And a lot of people are about to cause an uproar if they don't like fix it immediately, because it's like a lot
well,
of
what I
people
think
are
is
mad.
great is you see a lot of people talking about how capitalism has failed because like you have these rise of mega corporations. But really, what I tend to see when I look at stuff like that is the rise of kind of a crony capitalism, right? Because there's so many regulations and so many taxes nowadays that small businesses just cannot survive.
Exactly, exactly.
And you know who can afford to take all those losses are these mega corporations where
Yeah. So
the CEO makes several $1 million a year.
yeah, the worst
He
case
can
scenario for
absorb
them is
all.
like they're gonna settle a lawsuit, and like what's that to them? It's a drop in
Yeah,
the bucket.
like when they release this stupid regulation, like there's it. I think one of the biggest places where people get a lot of like shit dumped on them is the bathroom regulations.
The what?
Bathroom regulations.
Oh, like with the transgenderism thing?
No, no, like when handicap stuff. Like I'm gonna tell
Oh,
you a story. There's a fire station. I yeah, I think it's New York because I think I went to New York and they told us about this fire station. It's the old historical fire station, and it's really small, right? Like you know how old fire stations are like there's two ways up to the second story. Like on the first
yeah.
story is where they keep their fire engine, and on the second story is where everyone, all the firefighters live. And there's like a pole because they have the whole pole that they slide down, and then there's a small staircase, and there's no room for anything else. And the
Yeah.
bathrooms are on the second floor. And there was a regulation, and somebody came in and told these people that they had to add a handicap stall to their restroom.
Yo, what?
So they
Why do you
had
have a
to,
handicap stall in a fire? Like what?
well, because it was a public museum. But
Oh,
the
it's a
thing,
museum.
but the thing is, there's only two ways up to that restroom. One of them is this tight winding staircase,
Yeah.
and the other one is a pole. Like they had, and the fire department got like this museum got off scot free for having to make like a ramp because there was no physical way it was possible to add a
Oh,
ramp.
thank God. Okay.
But like
Is that what?
that just makes it even more stupid when you think about the fact that these people had to add a handicap stall in the second floor that handicapped people cannot get to. And if they can, like if a person who is wheelchair bound shimmies himself up that fucking fireman pole, I think
Yeah.
he can use a regular bathroom stall. Like,
If it's that serious, like they're you can find a way. Like, you know, like sorry, but
and like, I get it. We're from California. We're used to having to deal with stupid shit. But like,
like not everything can just come from the guise of having a moral background in your take on the situation. It's like, dude, sometimes you just like certain things just can't be perfect every single time. Like it's not a jab at them to take a preserved element of history, you know, and allow the public to come in. You know, it's like if you do that, that's enough. You don't need to go farther than that and say, well, all of a sudden you're a hateful like place that needs to be regulated because you don't have accommodation for every single person here, and it's just like, dude, why would you come if you like can't access it? Like people who deal with handicaps every day, like they're not dumb. Like they understand
yeah,
their own like they understand their own like realm of comfortability. And if they wanted to go there or whatever, like and they wanted to use a walker or a cane or have somebody support them and like they wanted to walk around, like
and
they
like as a
they go to
Californian
the
though,
bathroom stall. You can do
yeah,
that. You can do all that.
like as a Californian though, I hate to say it because like my family we're from Boston, so like
Yeah.
naturally I hate New York, but thank God for New York because
Why?
they make California look a little bit sane.
Really?
Yeah,
I would not have known.
well, because all the shit we've been talking about, that's all mostly out of New York.
Oh, that's true. Well, yeah, but we
Like,
have our own issues, Like they're not on the southern border. We have a whole other set of issues.
well, we have a whole other set of issues, but like, it feels weird to say, but like, Californians are almost more grounded to
Well, yeah.
reality
Well, yeah.
than New Yorkers. Like, especially inner city New York. Like, if you're from the city of New York, oh boy, that's a whole nother level of crazy.
I heard the crackheads there are like next level.
I don't know about that.
Or was that somebody else? I mean, somewhere else. Probably like Atlanta or something from Miami. I don't know.
I'm gonna say that because I haven't heard that in the news. I'm just talking about what I've seen in.
That's not something that's gonna be in the news.
Yeah, obviously the news people aren't gonna be like, oh yeah, our
Hey,
crackheads are
want to let you
first
know
rate.
we're at record high measurements of crackheads this year. You might want to, bring a stun gun. Make sure you're safe. We got concealed carry. You're good for Second Amendment, whatever.
Like, I almost wonder how long it's going to take, because like I feel like it's only a matter of time before New York has something like Brazil.
What happened in Brazil? Educate me.
Okay, apparently, if you're going to go touring in Brazil,
Mhm.
they have this thing, and you have it's literally a pamphlet, and I think it says something along the lines of how to survive in Brazil as a
Oh,
tourist. And like
what?
I was reading this online, and
Is it like real? It's real.
this is real. Like one of the genuine tips is like for when you get mugged, have a fake phone and wallet on you. It doesn't say if you get mugged. It says for when you get mugged.
Nigga, nigga. Oh my god! Wow! Holy crap! That's crazy. That's what, like you're fully expecting to get mugged.
Yeah.
Like when, if you go there, like you are there's no avoiding that. Like you can't fend them off. Like they're that nuts. Like because of what's happening. Is that really the situation? Don't mess with me.
I feel like they ain't ever had like a true American show up in Brazil, try to get mugged, and then pop 5 rounds in the person.
I dude, if I ever went to Brazil and somebody tried to mug, oh my god, like they're hospital, hello, like get him over here right now. Like he's not okay. I'm sorry. Like he tried something and I wasn't having it. Like that's how the situation would go. I'm sorry. Like there's no other way around it. It's just like the fact that there's some kind of stimulus to warrant that to potentially warrant a reaction like that is like beyond me. I'm not, that's how. That's not okay. I'm not gonna like apologize for that. To be honest, that's crazy. That's crazy. They literally have brochures. Like, oh wow, look at you wanting to vacation in Brazil. Well, let me just put you in the know. Let me put you on. You're gonna get mugged, and that's part of the experience. So have some fake stuff on you, it'll be fine. Like
All right, then.
what?
And then, since you're the guest, um, what else? What topic did you want to try and cover next?
I don't even know.
You don't know?
Socialism, matriarchy.
Matriarchy. All right. What about matriarchy?
I think it's really unhealthy on the grand and micro scheme of things. Macro and micro, whatever the hell. You know what I'm saying.
Damn.
Not good at words.
First, we talked about abortion. Then we talked about Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Now we're about to talk about the matriarchy. We gonna piss off all the feminists.
Cortez. You gotta say it right. Make sure.
We gonna piss off all the feminists. Also, get closer to your fucking microphone, bruh.
Hey, I'm washing dishes, man.
While you're doing a live stream? That's
Yeah.
rather bold of you.
It keeps me calm. It like gives me something to do with my hands, and the water keeps me like calm. I don't want to get riled up. I'm trying to have a what's it called? A civil discourse.
Alright, makes sense.
Plus, it like good ASMR. Political ASMR. Hi guys. Today I'm gonna be talking about the Nazi regime and how Hitler was.
Alright, so about the matriarchy. God, I need to get more than one guest at a time on here.
Ugly for that.
Damn. But like,
Matriarchy.
no, the matriarchy is like a genuine fucking thing because like we're beginning to get into a political age.
It's happening right before our eyes, and it's like it's hiding under the guise of like women's rights and stuff. It's like we're past that, okay? Like women right out of college and women who have been in their industry long term typically make more than men financially. Also, socially.
Well, it's also like we've gotten to a fairly decent position of like equality.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've legally. I've asked this to like so many different feminists who want to come up and challenge me on the basis of my belief that feminism isn't needed anymore. Like y'all cannot name one actual right that a man has that a woman doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. And not
like you cannot tell me that you are oppressed.
Traditional feminist views are like so skewed now because of the transgender what's it called? Not like what's it called? Like like the installment of the transgender narrative into mainstream culture and having science guided upon those like guidelines, and it's like
Yeah,
there's so many
it's like
things that are just like so different in people's you know, the larger take on these situations, just because we're at a time where like a lot of these issues that we're dealing with are just completely unprecedented. And it's
well,
like
because like if you want to know what like yeah, women used to not be able to vote. That was oppression.
yeah, you
Like
could say that, you could
you
totally say that,
have
but also
you have
at that
no
time you
legal
have to
right.
make certain
Women do not have any
the
legal rights that men
process.
do not. Men do not have any legal rights that women do not. Although arguably, you know, you could technically argue that there are rights that women have that men don't.
Oh,
Like,
totally.
have you heard about the Duluth model?
I don't even know what that is.
Basically, the Duluth model says that in any instance of domestic abuse or violence, the police are automatically, by protocol, supposed to assume that the man is the guilty party.
Oh, what?
Which, like, there's been actual recorded instances where a man has called the police because, you know, their woman's been abusing them, like violently and shit, and the police arrest him.
Whoa,
And,
that's crazy.
like, this is, I don't know if it happens anymore. I think that enough people pissed and moaned about that it got
I would
fixed.
hope so. Sheesh, I don't want.
But I haven't actually
God,
done any research to
that's
see if
horrible.
it's being solved.
That's
I just know
horrible.
that it's something that, you know, was happening as, you know, as long back as 2015. There was a case of that
Oh my
happening.
God, that's horrible.
And I don't know, I think because of the number of people who have pissed and moaned about it online, I think that police forces have moved past that.
That is wild. That is so crazy.
But like,
Yeah.
I mean,
like
you are
that's
right with
that's
the
happened
matriarchy,
historically
though.
too. Like we would have events where people would find out that the dude was getting abused by his wife, and like if you were a dude and you abused your wife, you got it from the community. Like they would tear you to pieces. And if you were abused by your wife, they would still tear you to pieces. They would come to your house. They would bang pots and pans. They would call you a bunch of names. Probably like nowadays, people would probably call it like ooh, the so elusive F word. Ooh, it's so scary.
Fajitas?
Huh?
Fajitas?
Yeah, I said the F word. What are you talking about?
The F word, fajitas.
Oh yeah. I think I know what. Yeah, but probably like a whole slew of just like all the stuff you can think of. They would I think they would throw fruit at him. Wouldn't they throw like rotten fruit at him back in the day?
Yeah.
In the name of like their version of feminism, and it was just like, dude, that's not how you empower dudes, and that's not how you make a healthy dude like who can function in society. Like you gotta raise real men. You gotta like raise men right. You have to like you can't just like dude, like oh have you heard about that story? Dude, speaking of the transgender issue, this woman is like is so dead set on having her kid who's a boy like in a situation where he's transgender, and it's just like
Yeah.
whenever he's
Whenever he's with his dad,
he expresses himself masculinely, and he doesn't know how to convey like that's where he's comfortable, and it's like this transgender thing is going crazy because like now the wives are both favored in majority of the time in divorce cases, and now they're literally sexually abusing kids, and it's like
well, that case you brought up is actually really crazy because the like the development that's happened with that story that you brought up, if I remember properly, the guy's wife not only is filing for divorce and sole custody of the child,
yeah,
but like the father, they're telling him that he legally has to go through, I forget what it was, but it was like transgender education. It's basically like you know the Orwellian like gulag thought crime camps. That's basically what they're doing with this guy.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same thing as what's it called? Like cultural training or whatever. If you're gonna work in HR or like a human sciences thing at a college or even at some businesses, and it's just like,
Well,
dude,
yeah, but it's like the general thing that's like happening here is this person's being told what you're thinking is wrong,
yeah,
right? This is wrong to
exactly.
think. You can't have those thoughts. So what we're going to do is
If
if
we're
you
gonna
ever want to see your
reprogram you,
child again,
legally you have to be reprogrammed by us, or at least let us attempt it, because otherwise we're like immediately tossing your case and giving your kid to your wife and like or your ex-wife, and it's just like, dude, this is a whole new level of like messed up. Like this is the same thing that they did with black people because that was the main issue that was at hand, and then they took it and they went forward with legislation which again Democrats made. I don't know when there's enough evidence of the situation, but I keep talking to people about how there's always a resurgence of the world's demons that Mother Earth has to like purge out of herself on a regular basis, and it's expedited by humans because we have the capacity for independent thought. We're conscious, you know,
yeah,
and we have these behaviors built into us, like in the same way that we have structured out archetypes. And Jordan Peterson has gone into this type of thing in other contexts, but I think that it applies here too because all these people are supposedly operating in the name of morality, in the name of this, in the name of that, and it's just like Democrats way back in the day took black fathers and black or strong masculine black uh, you know, father figure type people at least in inner city communities, and they put them in jail. And then they pulled police forces after blowback from the populations. And then while all that was unfolding, we had the welfare state shoved down our throats. So we had to become, you know, willingly uh, trapping ourselves in a situation where we're having our um, wings clipped and we're suckling at the teat of the government. And it's just like, why are we doing that? Like, why? You know? And we're doing it again. So now, even while we're dealing with that, and we're starting to have an uprising of conservative thought processes in minority communities, we also have to deal with the new wave of the transgender thing. And it's like that
well, like
that mentality. You need
on
to
your
learn how to
mentality
have
that the
cognitive
people who are
dissonance.
doing this, because you said that the people who think the people who are doing this think that what they're doing is some kind of moral crusade. If you want to go that far, and I know that you probably are more than happy to go as far as I'm about to go. Well,
Sure.
you know who else thought that they were, you know who else thought that what they were doing was for the greater good and for, you know,
Hitler.
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 Like,
Hitler. He literally was like, I'm gonna do the world a favor.
have you,
I'm gonna cleanse this whole place of Jewish people. Because Jewish
well,
people are the freaking scum of the earth. And I can do that because like the government's on my side and God is telling me this is what I should do.
yeah,
And it's
well,
like,
actually, what's funny, because this is actually the case that was made by the group of people that were told, um, that this argument was inherently, um, racist. You know the whole identity politics thing that all these liberals want to go through, where they're a whole lot. The whole crux of their argument is basically you shouldn't, we need to control the privileged class.
yeah, it's like there's these
Well,
people above us that are trying to control us, and we need to like usurp them or whatever. Is that the thing? Is that the word? I
yeah,
guess we need to
and
usurp these bastards and
and if you
take
look
it over.
at you know Hitler's speeches and Hitler's propaganda, literally, if you replace the word, if you replace the word Jewish or anything involving Jewish with white, and if you replace the word like Aryan with
Dude,
any kind of
you don't
minority
even
group,
have to go that far to draw parallels. Like you can literally just look at what people are saying now, and they're literally like they're providing the wet dream of all these supposed white supremacists. They're like, you know what? We should put ourselves in areas where it's just us and we're running things ourselves, and like we're not associating at all with the white people, and everybody on the other side is like, yeah, that's exactly what we've been saying, like, yeah, like, let's do that. And it's like, how are you not seeing what you're doing? Like, you're
Well,
literally
no.
appealing to them with the exact same things that you are supposedly against. Like,
Like,
how
what I'm saying is that if you take a Nazi speech and replace words for Jewish with, some kind of privileged class, that, and you replace Aryan with minority classes, as Democrats would like to say, and feminists would like to say, you literally can take one of Hitler's speeches, do that to it, and you end up with, you know, some speech that sounds like it was written by an intersectional feminist.
Exactly, because it's all coming from the guise of morality. Everybody is so caught up in their own ego that they're not allowing themselves to have actual logical thought processes dictating how they're going about all these issues. And when it comes to politics, you have to have a cognitive dissonance to like separate anecdotal, documented experiences and theories and hypotheses and actual factual analysis on behavior. That's why we have a thing called sociology.
Which, by the way, is massively overpopulated by liberals.
Exactly. But we had it initially because we were doing stuff that wasn't what they were doing. But then that was like one of the first things that they infiltrated, or like one of the most powerful things that they infiltrated when they started getting into the education system, because it's so powerful when it's used correctly. But when it's not, it's used to throw their narrative around, and that's what we're seeing happen.
Well, if I can talk to you about,
we had
because last semester I actually took a sociology class,
Oof.
at my college, and that was that was kind of a horrifying moment for me, because my professor, he seemed like a nice guy, but he also sat there, and from the way he talked, you could tell he was livid, because we were supposed to cover 16 chapters and we only covered 12.
Oh my god.
Because he kept going on these tirades about the evils of capitalism, and sociology, when you think about it, is supposed to just be it's supposed to be a neutral thing.
Yeah.
But it's being taught by people with the agenda of convincing their students,
of their own.
My ideas are more just than everyone else's.
They're I'm not even gonna say it. We're on stage.
We already kind of covered that.
They're stoking their own egos. That's all I can just say that again. They want everyone to agree with them because they're younger than them, and they're like, oh, I can influence them, and it's just like.
Because I remember you originally wanted to talk about the matriarchy and the concept of the matriarchy, and it's actually kind of a growing, thing.
Oh, dude, I've been in one. It's crazy. You get a woman that same woman who's backing their kid up into that corner or whatever. You get women like that. You get women who are controlling, who think that they're in the moral right. They've lost the true core elements of what gave them that maternal instinct in the first place, which was their kid, the well-being of their kid, and they get caught up in, well, I'm doing this right, so I have to keep doing this the way that I want to do it, and anybody who wants to do it any kind of other way is getting in my way, and I don't need them, and I'm going to take them out, and this and that. My grandma was such a hoarder. This whole place was disgusting. There was mice. She was living with mice. She was living with roaches. It was nasty. It was really nasty, and it was because she was in complete control. She had my grandpa in this beta male state. He was always in his room. He didn't even cooking anymore. He used to cook up a storm. He was amazing. He's amazing in the kitchen, and he just didn't want to deal with potentially clashing with her. And it was just that's one situation. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was at my friend's house, right? And this was recent. And if he sees this, oh well. I'm not using any names. I'm not like getting personal or whatever. But I was at my friend's house, and I recognized a hoarder house when I saw one. Like even at the beginning, like even when we first got there, he was like, he was looking like nonchalant about it, but he was just like, don't basically like don't disrespect the crib, kind of. And I was like, you good? Like I'm shit. I've lived life. Like I'm not about to get all weird on you. Like I was just genuine. And then we get in, and the place was worse than like this place. Like I'm in the middle of like cleaning this place up, and it's like we have an old truck in our patio. We have a bunch of old rusty containers. We got like stuff is falling apart, and it's like, dude, I can still appreciate my house, and he still appreciated his house. And when I got there, I was like, this is like worse, because like it wasn't even just that either. It's not just about the matriarchy either. I just call it the matriarchy because a lot of the time right now, when it comes to situations like that, it's like, well, the woman's decision is like the last thing, and it's like with like those those shows like uh the life of a hoarder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that, like the woman, like she will flip out. Like she will just call the shots immediately and just be like, okay, we're done. If you don't go like in a way that will kind of like allow her to adjust like at the same rate as you, and it's usually not going to be the rate that you would go into it hoping you could go at. It's like it's going to be a really slow like process, and if you're going to make any headway with her, it's going to be like minimal at max. And it's like with that, I could totally tell, and I ended up crashing at his place. And lo and behold, they were living with bed bugs.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, this is not okay anymore. Like, I understand that you're living in some kind of way. And like, he was like, I need you to respect me right now. I need you to like listen to me. Like, whatever she said goes. Everything's under her name. Like, if the police get involved and they have to get their attention on it at all, everything's over. And I was like, dude, that's why I want to like help you and like get this situation like under control, because like it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And it all came from just having no strong um, other influence. Like it didn't have to be a male influence. It didn't have to be like a super masculine influence. But like nobody was speaking up. Nobody was trying to make change. The energy there was whack. Everybody was kind of like just like feeding off of each other for energy. It was creepy. It was nasty. It was crazy. Like I didn't like it. Like people were like, dude, people were smoking like crazy weed, like
Yeah.
crazy amounts of weed. And it was like no wonder, like dude, it was crazy. Like it was wild, and I totally saw like so much potential in that place, and I know like eventually it's gonna change, and it's like it's not gonna be as tense because like he's gonna be more in control. Like we're all like kind of coming of age. We're kind of coming up on our own like moments of aha, I'm growing, I'm maturing, I'm thinking for myself. We're gonna have those moments, and I know that he's like in the middle of one right now, and like he's handling stuff however he's gonna handle it. But like sometime someday, it's gonna change for him, and it's like I lived in a hoarder house when I was a kid. Like I literally like I'm about to have my first bed, like my first like real bed. Like when I was little, I slept in like a crib, and then after that, I was like I think I was on the couch, and then got a bed from my uncle, and within like maybe months, like my dad turned that room into like another hoarder room. So like my bed was completely blocked off, and it was like there was ants, um, there was ticks, and it was just like people we got to stop this kind of thing happening on an individual level first of all. And like if we see that like any kind of over imposing power structure driven basically off a dictator type energy flow, then like it's gonna be whack. And like we can't do that with our government. Like we know that everybody knows government sucks at everything, And like, if you're going to take that same principle that's so dysfunctional on an individual family basis and so reliably dysfunctional, why would you ever want to give that a chance um, in a government subsidized and enforced power structure? Like, I don't understand the logic behind that. It's so like, and this isn't like groundbreaking knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like that's I'm comfortable saying like this because I know that it's not the only time that it's happened, and I know that it's not going to stop until we start openly talking about it, because it's not something that nobody knows about. You know?
Yeah,
It's
and
like
like
it's,
I
it's
also
been
want to
happening.
really,
It's not that much of a reach to like be narrating the situation. Like, I'm not crazy for talking about it, even if it is my friend, because like I've been through the exact same thing and I know what he's going through right now. Like,
and like low key, I kind of want to make sure, because like this isn't something that's just like, obviously, hashtag not all women, but like this is kind of a genuine thing that like, okay,
yeah, no, I'm
like
like
I don't know
literally,
what it's
I'm not
like because
even.
I come from a family where like my parents both are genuinely like treat each other as level equals, right?
Yeah,
But like, and I've noticed this, like almost every person I know who's a completely broken and shattered individual always seems to have grown up being raised by a single mother.
yeah, it's not that much of a stretch. Like, people already know that like that's kind of the situation. And it's like it's not the single mother's fault, but it's like it's a shit
And I'm not
situation for a
saying that
kid.
it's, I'm not saying that we should think
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
their
No,
fault. It's
that's why
obviously
I'm
not.
saying it's not about that, because people for some reason assume that that's what you mean when you bring this up, and it's like everybody wants to get offended and emotional about like, oh, you're insulting my mother. Like, I was raised by a single mother and I'm fine, and then they're crying in front of a national TV audience, and it's just like,
No, and like
dude,
there are
you're not
some
fine.
people who are raised by single mothers who turn out fine,
Yeah, those
but
people are
like
actually fine, but the
I
ones who
don't
are like, making a spectacle
personally,
out of
I
this,
don't think it has anything to do with like the fact that it's a mother. Because like
it's just single parenting. It's
what
just
I've also
dysfunctional
noticed is
families
that like
not working.
what I've also noticed is like I know people who were raised by dads and didn't know their actual mom,
Uh-huh.
but every single person I've met who was raised by a single dad, they weren't actually raised by a single dad because generally their dad went out and got remarried.
Yeah.
So I don't think it actually has anything to do with like there's a lot of people I know who want to ascribe stuff like that to toxic femininity, which by the way, toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, it's all bullshit. There's just toxic humanity.
That's exactly what I was about to
Humans are
say.
toxic by
I was
nature.
exactly about to say that. It's just like we're
But like
all elements of the same puzzle. It's like it's
yeah,
just toxicity, and if you
but
start
like
labeling things and trying to
I
make that certain argument fit into like an intersectional point of view, then you're not going to have a productive argument. I'm sorry,
yeah,
that's just not going to work.
but like the feeling I have is that it has nothing to do, despite what a lot of people will say, with femininity being
Exactly.
toxic and that people need masculinity in their lives. What I think it is, from what I've noticed, because every person who was raised by a single dad, their dad got married, and then they had two people raising them. I think it specifically has to do with like being raised by one individual, which ties back into the matriarchy because like a lot of what modern day feminism preaches is this whole attitude of you don't need a man, you
Yeah,
know?
and it's like
So you
that's
have
where
more and
it
more
goes
mothers
wrong.
who think
That's where it goes wrong.
you have more and more mothers nowadays who think that it's okay to raise their child in a single environment,
Yeah,
where it's just them raising the kid.
and
And I
again,
think
like
that
I
that's
feel like I've said this
toxic
to you
because,
before,
like I
but they
said,
instead of remarrying and finding a man, they turn into this like toxic relationship with
yeah,
the government, and it's like there's no actual meaning in a relationship like that. You can't parent riding on the back of taxpayers. That's the same thing as somebody who like would ride on the wave of economic support from like a community center, like a church or whatever. It's like that's not going to last long term, and if you think it is, you're in for a hell of a ride, because
yeah. Because, like, I have no doubt that if I met someone who was raised their entire life by a single dad, I have no doubt whatsoever that they would probably be just as broken and shattered an individual as the people I know who are raised by single moms.
Yeah.
And what I think is so toxic about it is, like I said, we have an environment where, young women today are being taught that being a single mom is an admirable thing.
Yeah, and like
When what
even
I
even
think that's
even
doing is that's toxic, because I think being raised by a single parent in general is just a horrible thing to do. Because, like I said before, anyone I've noticed who never had more than one parental figure in their life is always a just broken, shattered, kind of ghost of a person. And
yeah,
a
and
lot
it's
of
like
them you have to piece together back together if
speaking
you
of
want to
piecing
have any
together,
meaningful
that also
relationship with
that
them.
also contributes to like the bigger conversation. Like again, going back to like abortion, like that was kind of one of the nails in the coffin, if we're gonna be honest. Because like once you started saying, it's fine to be a single mom, you're doing great, you're living your best life, your kid's gonna be fine, you run things how you want it, sis, you're a strong, independent woman. And then all of a sudden, as that narrative starts getting more popular, people just rode that wave of like empowered energy and put it right into this other element of the conversation, where all of a sudden, instead of we're making abortion rare and safe and legal for women so they don't have to be oppressed like in a Middle Eastern country where you get killed if you're raped, because
Yeah,
you solely do your family. It's like, no, we have sovereign individual citizenship here, and we're looking out for the woman. And it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from, because like I'm pro-choice and pro-life. I'm pro-choice for like in certain situations, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm likely going to be pro-life. And it's like the fact that that got into my perspective or whatever was like, okay, that's where it cuts off, because like I know that's an interjection into what I believe is right, and it like kind of makes sense. So like that's all the room that I need to give, because like we've seen where that goes, and then all of a sudden we take this energy, right, that we had channeling toward empowering women to be like safe and like letting them know that they're comforted, I mean you know cared for here, and all of a sudden you rile all these women up and put them in a situation where they're so-called independent strong people, but they're just supporting themselves using the government, and then all these women are just like they're not given the proper um like what is it called, they're not given the parameters that they need to really like raise a kid how they would raise a kid if they were in like a proper um family unit situation. It's like that's not a jab at single mothers though. It's a bad situation for everybody involved.
yeah,
Like there's like single mothers like aren't just gonna say like, oh yeah, I love being a single mother. Screw my man. Like I had this kid and I told him that I didn't want him anymore, and like he came to me like begging and screaming for me to take him back. Like that's not the usual case. Like I don't know what romantic comedy you were watching, but I'm sorry, that's not what's going on. Like women are abusing men through the legal system. Even aside from all that, people are doing it to ruin young men's lives in college, in social situations. Um, they're taking the meme. Karen took the kids. Like Karen took the kids, and um, it's not healthy because for every apparent situation that comes to the public eye, it gets swung in some kind of way that's like not accurate, and it's like that's why it's a meme. That's why like we're talking about it so often in such a casual way. It's like there's something happening there, Like I can't be the only one thinking that. Hello, Fred, are you there? I mean, oh,
yes, I am. I forgot that I muted my microphone.
friend, please. Oh, hi.
I I got up to get myself another glass of water, and I sat back down and tried talking to you without realizing I fucking
I was
muted
like the
my
one friend,
microphone.
the one friend I made, the one friend, and he's gone.
Oh, don't say that about yourself. Surely you have other friends.
Oh, ow, my hand.
Don't do that, idiot.
I didn't do it on purpose.
But yeah, I mean, when you look at a lot of what's going on, like especially around this whole, um, female empowerment thing,
Mhm.
like And that's something I'm going to try to do a lot with this show. Like I said to you behind the scenes, and I'm going to say to anyone who um, drunkenly stumbles across this in the future, I'm really sorry for the fact that you had to sit through this to get this far. Just two fucking idiots. But like I said to you, I really want to make sure that I use this, this series specifically as like a platform because I really,
I
really
think there'd
want.
be more productive discourse on this. Like, I feel like the narrative on this is just so biased in either direction, and there's no just like long form conversation happening. Like maybe there is, maybe we're just not aware of it. Maybe it's already happening like on YouTube, but we're gonna end up colliding somehow if we do that and like get into that sphere of thought. So there's no harm in doing this.
Because like I said to you, I really want to start getting like as many different political opinions as I can on this show because I really want. Like it says it in my YouTube, bio that I just want to. I want to make sure that because especially with like abortion is a particularly nasty issue about this.
Yeah.
Is it's a sacred cow, and either you're for it, you're completely for it, and you think, you're completely for it, and you love like the New York bill, which allows abortions up until the moment a child is born, or you're against it and you don't think abortion should exist at all. There's really no like in between
conversation space,
There's no in between, and I think that if we want to have a productive dialogue and we want to have a productive society, we need to have people. Not only do we need to have people who are willing to discuss, their opinions with the person. Like we need to have people who are willing to have productive conversations and not just petty arguments.
It's not even just online. It's like
but we also need people who are like in between.
Who what?
We also need people who are like in between.
Yeah, exactly.
Like obviously, if you have two extremes, most of the time, neither extreme is going to be the right answer. Yeah, and I genuinely believe that with all of my heart. Right? You cannot have like if you have two people who believe. Let me think of something. Let's say that there's a group out there that wants to pick a food. Sushi. There's a group of people that wants to make sushi illegal because sushi's immoral. And then you have a group that says that everyone, sushi is the best and everyone should have to eat it. Obviously, those are two extreme stances on a position. And obviously, neither of them are right. Obviously, we shouldn't ban something because again, I'm going to reference, I'm a libertarian guy. I believe the only things that should be banned are actions that directly rob someone else of their right to life, liberty, or property as described by Locke, the original classical liberal.
Yeah.
But that said, you have two extreme positions like what I just described. And in most cases, what you have is you have position A telling position B that they're stupid, and position B firing back at position A. And I think what we need to start doing, and what I definitely want to do, and by the way, this is the ending of the podcast. We're having this discussion because I want to be open to people who watch this to know what to expect, because I do plan on trying to do this every Sunday. We need to have people. Side A and side B need to have a genuine discussion and not an argument about what's going on.
Yeah. It can have argumental elements, but we really just
every conversation has argumentative elements.
We need people who are actual they can talk. They can discuss their ideas and fire back and forth and have a legitimate moment of time where it's mostly, at least, about sharing their opinions in a genuine manner and trying to get the other side to see what they're trying to see. I mean, trying to get them to see what they see.
Yeah. All right. Are there any last statements you want to make?
Hey YouTube, don't sue me.
I mean, I don't think we were planning on getting sued. Now I'm a little worried.
Well, I just wanted to let them know that they shouldn't do it. It's like, you know, I don't want to end up like Alex Jones. Yeet.
Let's be honest, if this becomes any kind of popular thing with a lot of people sharing opinions, you're probably going to be the Alex Jones of this show.
Yeet. I'm gonna have to get my yelling voice like in working order.
It's Black Alex Jones, guys.
Oh yeah, we got the hood up in here now. You don't want to mess with them today. I'm done. I'm done, buddy. Sorry.
Damn.
It's all done. It's all over. I've ruined it all.
All right, Elcom. Well, if there's nothing else you want to talk about as a last statement, I think that's all the conversation that we're prepared for today. All the content we prepared.
I guess the fire's out, guys.
The fire's out.
This was Fireplace.
Right.
Check it out.
It was nice talking to you. Stay sane out there, you two, and have a wonderful day.
All right, guys.